more or less all of us are here. Yeah, good. So, dear members of the Alliance, dear panelists and participants, it's my pleasure to greet you all as the chair of the Alps-Adriatic Alliance in this virtual event. Over the past year, we got used to communicate with the help of digital tools, for which until then we had believed it belonged to some future generation, but we are here at this moment. Nevertheless, it still helps the world moving on. I'm sure that each and every one of you has had different experience and challenges with the pandemic, and that you are doing your best to overcome them in the best possible way. The Alps-Adriatic Alliance is a legal successor of the oldest interregional association, the Alps-Adriatic Working Community, for which many of you have probably heard. It was founded in the dark period when Europe was divided, not only ideologically, but even physically, with the Iron Curtain. We in Croatia have been somewhere in the middle, as you know. Despite these circumstances, the founding fathers recognized the need of connect people, living too close to each other, so close to each other, in some cases speaking the same and similar languages, having similar customs, and sharing the Central European cultural and identity and values. This definitely helped in the integration process of all the included countries in the EU by spreading the European idea among regions and citizens. Education is something most members of the Alliance have competencies over, with the exceptions of Slovenia, which is organized in towns and municipalities. As I have been informed, unfortunately, the representatives of Slovenia had to cancel their participation at the last moment. But I am sure both Slovenian and Hungarian members will contribute in the creation of the white paper of our alliance. The thing is, it will be really interesting to hear how our primary and secondary schools reacted when the crisis occurred, and how the whole system has been functioning until today. I would like to mention a very important and interesting fact, namely, within another inter-regional organizations, the Assembly of European Regions, as the Vice President in charge of culture, education and youth, I personally and we as the committee initiated a short survey among member regions. We received feedbacks from the regions from Austria, Romania, Serbia, Turkey and Croatia, which is actually quite an interesting sample. The answers provide an insight into organizational challenges of this teaching and learning in different parts of Europe. There are some challenges already with the main precondition for online classes, and these include technical preconditions and infrastructures, namely tablets, laptops, and even more, and I would say maybe the most important, internet access. I just finished a minute ago the telephone conversation with Walter Flego, who is the leading person in the European Parliament for that matter, digital improvement. And we agreed to have the meeting about that and to see what can we do, especially on that internet access matter. 70% of this small but representative global group says there is still room, and we know that, for improvements of digital skills, both of teachers as well as pupils, especially the ones in primary schools. An astonishing fact, for example, was that in one region, less than 50% of pupils in primary schools could not follow the online classes due to the lack of internet access and the technical equipment. And I'm afraid that this is definitely not a single case in Europe. We can only imagine the consequences of that break of the constitutional right on education, which every child has in the recent period. And this is why competent bodies must take good care of the educational system in their respective regions in order to enable every pupil access to education and on one hand, and on the other to ensure optimal teaching conditions to teaching staff. So to conclude, the final aim of this panel is to collect all the good ideas, any, and experience, which will serve as the basis for any potential future crisis, which we unfortunately are in the middle of at the moment again, and help us to react in an inclusive and prompt manner. So thank you for joining us today. Your contribution will be much appreciated. Thank you again. I wish you a successful and interesting webinar, and I hope it will be useful also to you in your future work, and of course for any other who wants to share with us our ideas and suggestions. Thank you again, and I'm sure you will have a very productive discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Čačić. And now the word has Thomas Pseiner, AAA General Secretary.
Well, good morning on my behalf. I'm so happy to seeing you all here from all over the Alps-Adriatic Alliance area. I would like to express a personal word of thank you to all these who have helped to make the project CERLI possible. And I'm extremely happy that today we will start our project. We'll start our first webinar, our first panel with that group in the Alps-Adriatic area and all over Europe, which is probably the most vulnerable, most sensitive one here during this COVID-19 pandemic. It's the young generation. It's our future. And I am so happy that we are starting with a panel on education today. And I hope that through our Alps-Adriatic networking, we can help to find solutions for the future in order to deal with future scenarios even more effective than we do today. Because as President Čačić has just mentioned, the challenges are very much the same no matter where we go, in most parts of Europe, in most parts of this world. And I am so concerned, being a father of a 26-year-old daughter. She's already working. She has her university days behind her. But I feel with these families who have children in school, in university today, because I am so afraid that they are going to miss so much, that what they lack these days, the quality and education they lack, I hope they will ever be able to pick up on that again. And on the one hand, digitalization helps a lot. But as President Djardjic just mentioned, there is a big social gap between those who have the hardware, who have parents who can help intellectually to support them at home, and we have the other side, which are not that lucky. And if we find any kind of solution to make these lives easier and better, I think we have come a long way. So I don't want to hold you up any longer. I just want to say thank you for being here. I hope that you will be able to keep joining us on the future panels, which will deal with arts and culture on the 21st of April, and with civil protection on the 5th of May. Very important topics as well. And I hope you will stay with us and keep networking and cooperating with us. Thank you so much, and enjoy the day and have a great quality discussion.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Pseiner. As head of TCP Lifelong Learning, Ms. Helena Matusha, Assistant Managing Director of Zagorje Development Agency, will also welcome you. Ms. Matusha, please.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for following us and joining this another virtual conference. Especially it is Friday, so I hope you will enjoy, and we will exchange good practices together. Preparing for the workshop, for the panel, for my introduction and welcome speech, I have to say that I've come upon one study that UNESCO did worldwide. And it says that they have identified major gaps in some educational outcomes, which are related to unequal distribution of teachers in general, and of the best qualified teachers in particular. That's one topic that we want to raise today. And also what is especially in focus of our concerns when it comes to regions is that this educational outcomes also have impact on deterioration of lower income countries and regions and of rural areas. That is something we also want to talk about, how to maintain the good level of education and provide good level of education in rural areas. If we are talking about models and measures the regions and countries have adopted across Europe, of course, we can say that most of all are related to suspension of face-to-face classes at all levels, which, yes, has contributed to the rise of distance learning modalities through variety of formats and platforms. And yes, we can use the digitalization, and we have stepped into new digitalization area, definitely. But also it has some side effects that we have to talk about. And that is, we have to think about the health and overall well-being of students, but also let's not forget about the parents. Also, as a mother of 2 teenagers and 1 5-year-old, it is also very challenging for parents, talking from my personal experience, to be a support also in nurturing their mental well-being, but also following on their education. And yes, of course, we are all afraid that they will miss out on part of their lives. And also what is very important, and what I as a mother come across often and came across often in the past year with my children, is the disinformation in this global digitalization approach when it comes to education. We really have to teach our children to identify misinformations, disinformations, and be more aware and to think about the online safety overall. Maybe those are not the challenges we often mention when we talk about online education and COVID crisis education when it comes to the past year, but I think these are all some of the aspects we have to think about. So again, I thank all of the partners involved. Thank you, Thomas, for your support. And I hope that we will freely exchange our ideas and talk about some key points to make this white paper proactive and to see how each of us can contribute in the future. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Matusha. And now I think we are ready to start our first panel discussion on the topic of education sector challenges due to the current health crisis. Yeah, I would like to welcome Ms. Maria Pichelbauer from the Styrian Board of Education. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah. Then Dr. Axel Zafoschnik, Director of the Education Region West in Carinthia. Yeah, Mr. Zafoschnik, hello. Good to have you with us. We have Ms. Zdravka Jurden, Headmaster of a second high school, Barastin. Are we seeing and hearing you? I hope so.
I'm here. Good day, everybody. Welcome.
This is great. Good to see and hear you. And we've got last but not least, Miss Mirjana Smičić-Slovenec.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. She is head of County Department for Education, Culture, Sports and Technical Culture from the Kapina Zagorje County. Yeah, what were the key challenges when COVID-19 started to spread? Were your educational systems prepared and able to respond quickly to the new circumstances? How long did it take for teachers and students to network and connect during the first lockdown period? And did it improve maybe during recent months? Yeah, I would like to give a word first to Austria, to Maria Pichelbauer.
Thank you, David, and thank you for the questions. Please let me first give my best greetings from my boss, from Elisabeth Meixner, the Director of Education of Styria. She asked me to let you know that exchange and sharing, the cooperation across borders is really the backbone and also the key for prevention of a new crisis. We know that the virus doesn't stick to rules and borders, so she wants to thank everybody for organizing this meeting and for giving us the opportunity to learn from all of us. Not only to the panelists and the organizations, the organizers, but also to the teachers participating, especially to the teachers, head teachers, pedagogues. Here, she wants me to tell you and shout out loud that you are our heroes, and your positivity, creativity, flexibility, your improvisation skills are really helped us to get through these difficult times. Once again, teachers, you are our heroes. This is just a word from Elisabeth Meixner, and I'm happy that I have such a wonderful boss. Of course, it's not only about these attitudes, about being positive, creative, flexible, and have improvisational skills, but it's first of all also the competences, and then the digital competences. Has it been a challenge for teachers and school staff? Yes, of course it has. But I would answer no, that it was a challenge, but we were ready to shoulder it. Why? Because in Austria, in the last years, there were a lot of efforts and a lot of initiatives set for digitalization. So we were not, it was, of course, it was a challenge, and we didn't expect it to have to use all our new knowledge, but we were prepared, I would say. So, and it's preparations through ministries, regional government, pedagogical universities, the EU, local regional school boards, applied sciences universities, technical universities. I really had a close look, if I'm not too positive on that, but I found a lot of initiatives in Austria that helped us prepare for it. So we had this master plan, digitalization, we had already virtual universities, e-lectures, online access to school libraries, e-books, e-school books, e-learning materials. We had the EU providing us with innovative possibilities in this future classroom lab, for example. We have in Austria the Innovationsstiftung Bildung, a foundation aiming on innovation. We have very interesting in Styria an initiative called Digimu and Digitats we developed during the refugee crisis, where we did remote schooling. We started remote schooling, so this was quite a lab experience lab for us now. We were very much focusing on Erasmus activities for our teachers. We had in the last years 1,300 teachers on Erasmus mobilities, exchange, training, and most of these mobilities were focused on digital learning, how to use digital tools. These initiatives included 230 Styrian schools. And then a part of that, our whole school administration is digital. We have everything on. We have the timetable on our phone. We have Citrix and Outlook. We have, and as I said, the strategy for digitalization, both from the EU and our ministries, launched. So, and we have, of course, also the social media. So we were ready. But what then happened that is overnight we had to go from basic users to remote schooling pros, and this was the challenge. You know how it is, you have new knowledge, but if you're not forced to use it, you just wait with it. And this is what happened overnight. Our teachers and the whole staff, we took really 3, 4, 5 steps at once and go for remote schooling. You asked me how long it took us to cope with the situation. To cope, there's always a lot of space for improving, but I would say week 1 from freeze to improvisation, week 2 the Tower of Babel of different platforms, and week 3 okay, 1 platform per school, if possible, and training for every teacher. So I would say we are really proud of the 3 weeks for this development. Seems really fine with us. I already mentioned the Erasmus competencies, that it's it seems that Erasmus experienced teachers were quicker in getting used to the new situation. I think that Erasmus teachers are used to have this virtual communication and also the emotional part of virtual communication, which is so important to connect with students. Concerning equipment and devices for teachers, no, we have no official devices. We are using, and we are used to using private devices. Have there been data issues? No, not. I've talked to our expert. No, there haven't been. The only thing that popped up was teachers not happy when students got an insight in their private rooms, and the other way around, of course. But then when we found out that we can have this virtual background, everything fine. The digital equipment of schools. So I would say that that we are not like on the same level as Baltic states countries, but we are on our way with digitalization, and it went in a good way. And if there is any good in a crisis, yes, it accelerated our this way. But we have now this fiber optic cable activities almost everywhere in Styria, even in rural areas. We have foreseen it, fortunately, first in rural areas. So this is also fine, this broadband expansion for schools. And there's also a funding for the compulsory schools that are not in the managed by the ministry. For the data issues, were we discussing? What are the platforms? Are the platforms safe? What tools may we use? And of course, then there was also the cyber attack on Microsoft and the phishing mails. But as an Erasmus expert, once again, I could tell that every country has really different rules on that. So when you're talking to French colleagues, you're not allowed to go for Zoom. You're not allowed to go for Microsoft Teams, nothing where the data is stored in US, no social media, nothing. So it's really very different rules everywhere. Concerning remote schooling, there was, I think it was, but Axel, you will know it better. I think it was starting in the third week that we had the training for mostly Microsoft Teams, and it just was really great to see how teacher communities came together to learn, to be better, to improve. Of course, we have to improve also how long should the teaching periods be one lesson? How long can we afford having the concentration of kids? And how can we combine this presence learning and as a kind of blended mobility? This is where there's a lot of things to learn. And the biggest issue with you is the gap in the digital access. It's really not only the digital access, but also those pupils that have no access to the digital, the hardware, software, but also are not supported by their parents because it's not possible. So this inequality, this is a really, this makes us less resilient. This is a big problem. I think for the kids in primary schools and in lower secondary, this is the big problem. For the bigger, it's also this lack of social contacts, not enough sports, not enough exercises, and there are students where it's really difficult to reach them. But Actually, I'm married to a teacher who is doing remote schooling. Just one on the first floor, it's him, and the second floor, it's me. And I can tell you, he's now just. I've listened a little bit. He's with 10-year-olds, and it's just beautiful to hear how there is an emotional connection between teacher and students via internet. So better than nothing. I'm happy with that. I think that Axel could tell then about all the initiatives and support by the that was done by the ministry, and just want to go on for the kids once again. I think it's also difficult for the older first upper secondary that we just school was taken from them, the social contact was taken, and then teachers in school came into their private internet world. So in their social media internet world, so they lost everything. And our school psychologist tells me that this is really the biggest problem that we have a lot of depression, depressive mood in with the young, with the adolescents. And then we have the parents, which are also really, they shoulder a big part of this crisis, and also education in this part. We try to do everything, but of course, when you have children that are in remote schooling, you have the smallest siblings that you have to play with, and you have the home office with your work. So this is how can we improve here? I think we have to work. And this quick loss, this quickly changing COVID measures, and then you have this loss of trust and confidence. And this is leading to the to conspiracy theories, followed by parents, etc. And this is opening the door to the next very big problem. So, thanks a lot. This for the challenges from my part.
Thank you very much. I would like to give a word first to Croatia and then back to Austria. I hope this is fine for you, Mr. Zafoshnik. I would like to give a word to Ms. Grudgen. I hope to pronounce it correctly.
Yeah.
Please let us know your opinion.
First of all, dear ladies and gentlemen, I send you warm greetings from Varaždin County. I am very glad to see a lot of Croatian teachers, a lot of Croatian principals that they participate today here with us. And my task today is to be a voice of school people. Of course, the role of principals will be my highlight of this panel. When we talk about this pandemic, and you asked me about my opinion, but I have to take you in the past 1 year ago. You remember we had our last day. It was 13th March, if I remember good, and it was Friday, 13th Friday, and it was our last day in our schools. If somebody told us that was actually our last day of a normal being in schools, we wouldn't believe it. But yes, after 1 year, we witnessed that we live in some other normal situations. When we speak about the school organizations, I know that my colleagues, a lot of principals will agree with me. That was some situations that we could not even imagine what is waiting for us. So the role of principals today is much more stronger, and we see that we have to communicate better all together, from national level to schools. Of course, teachers and students are in center of our work. So I have to also remind you that Croatia was in a school reform. Before 3 years ago, we started school reform. So in years 2018 and year 2019, we were very much obligated to work with new digital platforms and with virtual classrooms. So when pandemic came, I have to say that Croatia was very ready to organize our schools and the whole system very quickly. We had digital techniques, so laptops, tablets. That was very good. Almost every teacher had own laptop for working in school and working at home. And we knew how to do and how to organize virtual classrooms. So I have to say it was easy for us to prepare digital work and digital and virtual classrooms. But of course, a lot of circumstances and new things we could not organize. But I hope today we will hear a lot of these things, and especially what are solutions for some future times if we still have this pandemic or if something others happened. I will just tell you some results of our survey. You know, when I say we, I mean principals. We do observation of our work of teachers, work of students, and of course, we always ask parents how it goes. But when we speak about satisfaction of the organization of distance learning, I have to tell you that 3.58% of students, they said, okay, we are very satisfied. So that was our grade. The same thing is also with teachers. They said we are 3.31%. Actually, that was our grade from teachers to distance learning. So the teachers, the students, and the parents have the equal meaning and grades. And after we got this grade of distance learning, we did other observations and other surveys, but of some of them I will tell you about it later. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, back to Austria again, Mr. Zafoschnik.
Yes, thank you very much, Maria and Strauke, for your interesting insights into your own situation and into the developments in the region. Dear participants and dear members of the Alps-Adriatic Alliance community, pleasant good morning to you from Klagenfurt, the capital of the province of Carinthia. And for me, it's a particular pleasure and honor to share some views on the COVID-19 crisis with you and to discuss and reflect the key challenges for the primary schools and also the secondary schools in Carinthia and in Austria. Now, as you remember, the key date when all the challenges began approximately a year ago was Monday, the 16th of March, 2020. And I still remember personally Friday before the 13th of March when I was chairing diploma project presentations at the Technical College in Villach within the final exam framework, when suddenly the news arrived that normal school life would come to a total standstill as from Monday onwards. So the students there were actually totally shocked. They didn't know how everything was going on, what would happen with their examination. So I think you can all feel again and remember this situation, because at first, not only here, but I think also in your regions, in all the countries and all the schools of the participants here in the webinar, everybody, and that means the school administrators, the teaching staff, but also of course the students and the parents, were paralyzed and with shock about what would really happen now. Because like in Austria, literally over the weekend, 1.1 million students in about 6,000 schools in Austria had lost their frame of reference. They had lost their school buildings as the familiar learning and social environment, because the fear of public gatherings and of corona infections made the school closures and also closures of other institutions inevitable. Now, instead of talking and communicating with their friends at school, the prime contact persons of all our young people became their own family. And instead of school, other important everyday life scenarios became important, like the food shopping trip to the supermarket, or also, of course, the endeavors to stay in good health without actually getting the virus. So the question is again, how were the players in the education system actually prepared for this new situation? Well, were they prepared? That's actually to be asked here. Now, I can only speak for our education system here. And as the first emergency rules and the limitations and the restrictions announced by the government came into place, all education stakeholders, and that means the Ministry of Education, the education directorates in the 9 provinces, and above all the school principals and the teachers, because they were the main actors in the system, developed quickly and spontaneously and by improvising pedagogical concepts and measures that would keep the system at least afloat. So what was also happening was that immediately the hardware and software equipment of the schools was checked, and perhaps sometimes newly implemented if the money was available. Sometimes it was improved. And as you all know, in this respect, some schools were equipped better than others, especially in the secondary sector, in particular the vet colleges, the technical colleges and so on, because they managed the successful transition from classroom face-to-face teaching to distance learning and homeschooling. Others did not do so well, but everything was done to avoid a too abrupt interruption of the teaching and learning processes. Of course, this was difficult in the primary schools because they didn't have the technical infrastructure to begin with. And Maria and I think Strauke also said that the private phones and the laptops and computers of the teachers and parents were used. But we also had an extra feature at that time during the first hard lockdown. In the primary schools, children of parents whose jobs were system relevant, as it was called, could be looked after and could be taken to the schools. And I think that was also a very good measure. But of course, responding to this challenging new situation was not easy. And if you ask me how long it took, I can only say it took about maybe 1 or 2 weeks, to be honest. But then a powerful jolt of resilience went through society and also the school community, and online teaching began to have its impact, again, more intensely at the secondary schools that had already used learning platforms and portals and online learning. But also the primary schools were doing excellent work. Of course, they didn't have the technical infrastructure because it was simply not rolled out fully. Also, the teachers didn't have the distance learning skills. But they helped themselves with paper versions of worksheets, as well as with target group specific tasks and exercises for the students that could then be picked up, let's say at the school door or in front of the school building or wherever. So it was very much an improvisation process, but that was also not totally wrong, not totally right, but it somehow worked. So all these measures, these first measures of homeschooling and online learning were equally demanding for teachers, students, and parents alike. but everybody was willing to take over responsibility and to overcome the problems. Now, mind you, all this happened 2 weeks before the Easter holidays, and the assumption was that schools would perhaps go back to normal operation after the halls. But this was, as we all know now, only wishful thinking. Everything we are forecasting now maybe is also this sort of wishful thinking. Anyway, before the Easter break, the teachers had just got the order to repeat and to revise the content that they had actually taught previously. But when the teaching began again after the halls, distance learning gathered speed because new subject content could be taught. And also on the administration, on the education administration levels, we started collecting data. So data referring to how many students we had lost and how many laptops we needed and so on. For example, in Carinthia, we had lost only 300 students. That was quite a good percentage. Only 0.12% could not be reached online. So this implies that everything was done to maybe survive. And it implies that crisis management strategies were also implemented and also improved at that time. So it became common procedure to organize video conferences via Office 365 and MS Teams, Zoom or Skype, and tasks and assignments for the students were transmitted, they were graded, and they were marked electronically. But also Moodle was used at some schools, Leto, and we introduced a system which is called CERLI for the primary schools. And data protection rights were always an issue, and also the costs, of course, for the teachers, but this has been settled by the Inland Revenue Service so far, because the teachers can now claim a deduction, a tax deduction for internet costs and for computer costs and the like. But let me also talk briefly about the experiences of the very young, small children at primary schools who had to come to terms with the first encounter of social distancing, hygiene measures, and the wearing of mouth and nose protection. Not to forget the pedagogical implications, because they were suddenly taught in small groups, they were not allowed to sing songs together, and they were not allowed to do sports. So that was a challenge, but with the help of the teachers who were very empathetic and communicated with teachers and students alike, and Maria has said this before, I think the situation was well kept under control, not well, but at least tried to keep it under control. On the secondary level, we had another problem because school leaving exams, diploma examinations, final exams, they all had to be reorganized and rescheduled. I told you at the beginning of my report, the students were there on Friday and they didn't know how everything was going to go on, where the qualifications were coming from, because they wanted to go to start working in a job and so on. So again, the legal framework had to be created by issuing regulations and provisions adapted to the new situation. And there the ministry did a good job because everything came in time. Every 2 days we had new orders, but it wasn't possible in any other form. Also, and I think that has been said before, excellent work has been done by the textbook publishing companies, because they immediately provided their digital teaching materials for free. And as alternative instruments of problem solving, we thought we needed some extra help and support for the students. So we added intense remedial teaching and also a summer school in the summer holidays that lasted for 10 days. And I think that was also successful. So all in all, ladies and gentlemen, this was my first general overview, and I'm looking forward to sharing some more with you and reflect some more with you later. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Zafaschnik. Now, Mirjana Smičit-Slovenec, and after her words, we will have a short break.
Hello, everybody. Big sunny greeting from Croatia, from Krapina-Zagorje County, and this way I transmit greetings of the Prefect Željko Kolar and Jasna Petek, who is still here with us today. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to participate in this panel, and I'm glad that today we will share experience, be enriched with examples and ideas that will benefit everyone in easily overcoming the challenges we face in these imposed and unpredictable times. In exceptional and demanding conditions caused by the global COVID-19 pandemic, the education of children and youth in Croatia and least other region and of the rest of the world found itself facing a great challenge, and it was necessary to ensure the functioning of the education system in these challenging times. After the closure of schools and other institutions, a field of education from the well-established way of learning and teaching, the transition to a learning and distance systems was promptly made, and such a form of work required great preparation, motivation, responsibility and discipline of all systems stakeholders involved. And in the very beginning, school principals play an important role, as they were key people in empowering teachers, coordinating and managing the crisis situation. Distance learning required a very demanding scaling of a system, requiring more intensive cooperation between the students and the teacher, and it was also important to systematize new ways of business communication of the line student, teacher, parent, and to open new challenges of communication. And our school, not only our schools, are working hard. Teachers, principals, professional assistants, parents are making great job and great effort to get the best out of this situation. Through daily communication with schools, we tried to be supportive in providing all the conditioners for conducting classes in new circumstances, and the coronavirus epidemic surprised us all and forced us to organize quickly in a situation we had to do. We had not experienced before, and the education system was not prepared for the situation with corona, but I think that with the engagement of each individual, the schools coped well and quickly. The main challenge has been to connect students and teachers online and systematize the whole teaching process, and the biggest problem was the internet signal in certain areas, and some students had problems with following the lessons. The situation with pandemic made all stakeholders aware of the importance of teamwork, togetherness and action immediately. Somewhat of preparation for the situation in which we found ourselves in was project e-schools. This project complete informatization of school business process and teaching process in order to create digitally mature schools for the 21st century and prepare the schools for the new current situation. Students and staff had the opportunity to use the digital technology. Teachers, expert service and principal were constantly available to parents and students. There were no set working hours, and they work very hard all of the day and weekend. School closures have not only disrupted learning, but also access to school meals, support, and referrals to basic health and social services. Regarding the performance of teaching assistant duties during online classes. Initially, there was some confusion due to instructions from the responsible ministry not very well. One of the problems that arose was the organization of students' transportation, and for the transport of primary schools and secondary school students, special measures were prescribed that really had to be implemented. The biggest challenge was how to work remotely, especially in art schools, and subjects of creative nature is the field of art and music, and mentoring was with students in the classroom, individual direct work and direct communication and peer evaluation is something that is really hard to replace, but learning at a distance has also proven to be a major challenge that both professor and students simply had to face. And in this way of working, the key has been to establish good communication between students, teachers, and parents. The students were surprised by the new way of working. They were confused. It was difficult for them to organize the day, and it seemed almost impossible for them to meet all the obligations, and they needed understanding because they felt deprived of some things such as direct contact, and this is why we're constantly trying to make them aware of the importance of new life experience and positive things that we forget to take into account in times of crisis. This is all for me for now, and thank you.
Thank you very much. We are going to have a break of about 10 minutes, and I'm looking forward to continue our discussion then, yeah, with more interaction with our audience. So you are invited to use the chat afterwards, yeah, for letting us know your opinion and maybe have a more vivid discussion afterwards. But for now, 10 minutes coffee break.
Thank you, David.
I hope everybody had a good break with good coffee. Unfortunately, we couldn't have coffee and cake or anything like this together. Okay. Yeah, now I definitely would like to invite everybody to really comment our discussion via the chat or direct questions to the panel or remarks. Yeah, second part of our online event. So during the first session, we heard about different challenges Croatia and Austria had. Now we would like to know more about the key lessons learned and what we can do to prevent in the future. what do you think are the key lessons we have learned during the last months? And I would like to give the word to Axel Zafoschnik.
Thank you very much, David. Before I start, I'd like to say something to Mirjana. Thank you very much to what you said about the crisis has actually hit us like big surprise. Actually, it was a catastrophe, a volcano eruption, a tsunami. And I think this is something that you pointed out very well. We have an Austrian writer and a novelist called Felix Mitterer. And when he was asked what he thinks about the crisis and if he could use that somehow in his literary work, he said, no chance. You cannot think of something like this. It's impossible to invent such a scenario of a pandemic that has hit us. And even as a writer with a lot of creativity and fantasy, he could not think about such a situation. But what are the key lessons we have learned? Well, I can tell you what we have learned statistically in our region. Since the 12th of September, the beginning of this academic year, we had 1,200 students and 500 teachers tested positively. So you can imagine from a human resources point of view and also from a logistic point of view what this means, how quarantine measures had to be issued and how distance learning had to be organized. But if you don't have the staff, it's not like in any other job where you say, okay, I need a substitute or a replacement. You can't really get that very easily, as my colleagues have also pointed out. But when we ask ourselves about which conclusions can be drawn from these new teaching and learning methodologies and situations, and how we can emerge, if this is possible ever, from this crisis with a certain momentum and with certain successful strategies, we can clearly state that our old lives and our old learning will never be the same. Simply because online and digital learning have entered everyday life to stay for good. Individual responsibility and autonomy are now determining the learning at home and are happening within a personalized speed and time frame. The teachers can decide and design their lessons. The students can repeat as often as they want. They can look at the subject matter and then do the stuff again. So school is not the only learning and teaching space anymore. And with the right infrastructural possibilities, learning can literally take place everywhere. Suddenly, I think what also happened from the school organization point of view was that new timetables were designed. I mean, as we have it now here in Austria, and Maria knows that, primary schools have a 5-day per week full-time operation. So kids go to school, they are tested 3 times a week. In the secondary schools, it's slightly different. We have a 2-day shift organization, a shift operation, which is organized in groups A and B, and Friday is the distance learning day. However, autonomous schools have taken over their own initiative and they have already begun to stream lessons. So streaming via the internet also reaches students, I have to say not in all schools, but in many. And campaigns were also launched for those students who needed hardware support. And also, of course, student support was provided by programs like Digitally Fit to Learn at Home. And in terms of the hardware support, in Carinthia, we organized approximately 770 used and new computers, laptops, tablets, convertibles for the students with the help of the industry, with the help of the ministry, the province and so on, because I think 140,000 euros alone were just donated by the region, and then others, of course, supported us with laptops and with convertibles and tablets. Now, from the perspective of the teachers, I think a further learning from the crisis is that many of them have actually now come to like the new methodology and the didactics of teaching electronically. This would not have been possible so quickly without the crisis, as you all know, because all these forms of digital communication have lost their terror and their threats, because a well-working distance learning setup can promote explorative, experiential and personalized learning. And with this scenario, we can also implement cooperative and open learning better. And we can also get used to the idea that the teachers can design their lessons, their assignments at home. And teachers, as we do this now, can even hold webinars successfully at home. So I think this is something we learned. We have to cope with the situation. We have to improvise. And we also have to look, I think, one level higher to Europe, because I think what we also did is, so as to not lose any students, we undertook every effort to proceed with European Social Fund projects, because they helped previously, they helped to cope, they helped the students to cope with learning difficulties and with the situation when they were attending the schools. But this was not possible through online training sessions. Now this has been changed, and instead of face-to-face classroom lessons, online sessions have become possible through the REACT budget that the European Union now offers. So that's something I'd like to share with you of what I believe we have learned from the crisis.
Yeah, back to Croatia, Ms. Jordan.
Thank you very much. So I will conclude very simply what was positive, what we learned, and what is really positive. So positive is that we are digitally maturity. That was something that is definitely 100% better than it was 1 year before. We got more sensitivity to new changes, and definitely we see that the role of principals and the role of teachers in schools is much more stronger, much more bigger, and also we cannot, without capable teachers and capable principals in these critical circumstances. What I agree with Mr. Axel is definitely that we need to bring our education and our experiences from distance learning to bring to higher level in Europe, because you know that we don't have, and we didn't have it even before on our universities, no subjects that are dealing with online methodics, online didactics. That is definitely a new field of professional development, teachers or principals or other staff in school, that we have to work on it together. This is something very important for the future. But when we talk about what is still not good, I think that most of you will agree with me that this is grading, how to evaluate students, how to evaluate work of teachers, even work of head of schools, when we are working online. So this grading is not good. I was speaking with a head of faculty of informatics here in Croatia, who told the same thing, that they are very good in distance learning, but they still didn't find how to evaluate university students or teachers on a proper way. So when we speak what is also not good, this is assessment of essential content. You know, we have to decide, especially when we are online, what to put, what is essential of our content to work on. We cannot deal with everything, especially when we have to decide, are we working online all the time, or we are putting some things into virtual classrooms. And this schedule time properly is a very big problem. I don't know how was the practice in some other schools in your countries, but first we didn't wanted that our students spend 6 or 7 hours in front of Zoom or I don't know Teams, because it was very, very stressful for them and also for teachers. And then we said, okay, we will do a method that combines together also classrooms and also direct teaching. So these are problems that we still have to deal with. And of course, communication. We all agree that nothing can change direct teaching. But of course, the communication is nowadays very different. If we see this pandemic, we know that first of all, we have some physics barriers. Yeah, we have to be in a distance, physical distance. But the same thing is on this physical and social level. And we see this communication that is not stable. What that it means. When we ask our students, how is the situation at home? Do you have enough space? Do you have all conditions to learn? To be prepared for the classrooms? We don't know the real situations because we have to see how are the conditions in these families. Do they all have unique or some standard situations that are good for students? You know what I mean. Some parents fight in the same house. Somebody is maybe sick. So we have to see these realistic situations when we speak about the classrooms and this distance learning. When we talk about the school leaders and the principals, I have to say that we have to be aware that we need in a school more autonomy. Autonomy for principals and more autonomy for teachers. Because when you live from one day to another day, and when we expect what will happen, we have to be stronger in our decisions, how to react and what to do. So please, Mr. Axel and everybody who has some other better influence in Europe, take good care about this autonomy in schools, because each school has a different life. In Croatia, it's different if you are in Varaždin, Zagreb, or if you may be in Dubrovnik. And of course, it's different if you are in some different countries. But this autonomy of schools is very important. I told you, I'm speaking now from experience, because I said to you that we were in a school reform, and we had a strong support from British Council, where we saw directly what it means when you have school autonomy. They have in Britain a large school autonomy, so I hope to have it also in our regions. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Back to Austria again, Maria Pichelbauer, but try to keep it short.
Yes, okay. So 5 lessons learned, but all of them, what I am extracting now, all of them correspond very much to what has been said. So Helena, also in the beginning, and Strauka and Axel, Just for the fun facts, everything can be maybe cancelled. Lesson learned, everything may be cancelled. And another really fine thing, kids love schools and kids love going to school. So this is really very fine. Then for the key lesson learned, I think the digital divide is still big and complex. So this is where we have to work on, equip schools, work with the parents, work with, go for the teacher training, as you said, Strauka, keep on with blended learning even after the virus is gone. Second lesson learned, relationships are everything when we want to keep kids healthy and engaged remotely. So we have to foster communities, to strengthen schools, teachers, head teachers, and all the other staff around, the regional school boards, the ministries. So foster really communication and community learning to build up strong communities for our our kids. And these cooperations must even go further outside school in other sectors of social life and public life. We can't beat the virus without cooperating. The third lesson learned, it needs the right support for teachers when they should go for digital teaching and remote teaching. So here there are a lot of possibilities, and you have named several of them, and I'm sure we could come up together with a lot of more. Then what you were stressing also, Helena, the importance of focusing on mental health, and Strauka on physical health as well. So not only of students, but also of the teaching staff. We are sitting, I don't know how many, and also the administrative staff, the day long before our screens. I'm sure everybody feels the same. And then another lesson learned, which is Axel was talking about it, about the European community, and we really learned that European cooperation is boosting digital skills, is boosting problem solving. And so I think we should support schools and teachers, head teachers, to start to go for these cooperations and help them with them. And we have to teach them also how to use eTwinning, because this is a secured platform, and it is relaunched, will be relaunched soonly. So. Okay, so this for my 5 lessons learned.
Thank you, Maria. Mirjana Smicic, Slovenec, please. Your mic is still muted.
Thank you. As Zdravka says, the advantages and disadvantages of distance learning are experienced by everyone in a specific way, and there are adaptable persons with most teachers who grapple with and learn new things, acquire new knowledges and skills. So it is with students also, and we have noticed a certain number of children who generally did not stand out in classroom lectures, but found online classes to fit them well and made learning easier for them. As they say, they feel more protected and less exposed than in class, sometimes with inappropriate comments and views, but digital technology gives advantage to organizing information, meetings, and the exchange of quick information, facts, etc., and allow multitasking activities. Although learning at distance has lived and is functioning, it definitely cannot replace school's teaching, but I think that students receive a lot more through live teaching, work better, learn better and adopt the material better. The generation affected by this pandemic could be seriously deprived. The knowledge that students acquire in schools teaching cannot be approached by the knowledge that is acquired through learning at a distance. An equally important problem that has arisen is the socialization of children, and the modern schools is an educational and social community. It follows from this sentence that the school is responsible for the personal and social development of its students and has an educational but also and social tasks. The school is a place where the students develops and improve social skills in interaction with all participants in the school atmosphere, and the students in school makes various social contacts that are extremely important during growing up. I'm mother to a daughter who is 17, and from that perspective I can say that unfortunately whole generations are deprived of a normal social life, and children need a living world, socializing with peers, joint activities, and a sense of cooperation. This is our thing. I think that is similar and the experience is similar as the others' experience and meaning. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We had an interesting remark in the chat. Jasna Polanovic mentioned she was attending a conference, a virtual conference in Finland, and yeah, it was important for them in Finland that students had a quiet room to study, and that was something good. And maybe how do you see any possibility to see to have this private or quiet environment even after the crisis, and what else should be kept after the crisis is hopefully over soon? Yeah, let's start maybe with Ms. Jurgen.
Thank you. Yeah, we heard a lot of good facts, I will say facts here. But what I also want to say that we have to talk about motivation in schools for students, for teachers, and also for school principals. Of course, our school organization is very influenced every day or week or month about these pandemic situations. We are going back to school one part of the time, and then we are back to distance learning. But of course, old habits we still have, and some new stuff that we learned. So for the future, we have to combine together. But the question of motivation is something that I deal with every day. In which things? First, you all had school competitions in school for different subjects. I hope you had. So we see that our students don't want to go to competitions anymore. From 65 to 75% 1 year before they attend these school competitions. Nowadays, we have around 20% of going to these school competitions. What does it say about our school, about our system? something happened. They want to be at home, not be part of school life anymore, because they feel better at home, and activities are, of course, in a smaller amount. The same thing is with teachers. Okay, they have to do what they have to do at class, but extracurricular activities, do you have it in schools? We don't have it anymore in such a much amount. So when I speak and work with my teachers, and of course it goes also for other colleagues, school principal and heads, when we talk about it, how to motivate teachers to do the school content better at online approach, and how to still contribute to school life. It's a very, very hard. Why is it? I told it before, because this distance is seen on a lot of levels. But we as a school principals, we have to take a responsibility for a good motivation of our students, of our teachers, and of course we have this responsibility to our parents. Yesterday, I had council of parents in my school. After 1 year, I told them, please come to school that we talk in live. I was planning to have this meeting only 20 or 30 minutes. We were together for 2 hours. We saw and we talked about a lot of these subjects, about the quality of school organization nowadays, about the quality of teaching and learning in schools, about this demotivation of teachers and students, and what to expect in schools. I will conclude what we have to do. We have to improve our internet connection and infrastructures, definitely, and we have to work more and more with our teachers to give them support. I also need support as a school principals from my ministry, from you, from my other colleagues. But this support is needed also for teachers, for students, and parents also need support. Of course, we have strength to do something, to do some other projects, and I think this is the future, our work together on these subjects that we are now speaking. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Zafoshnik, what do you think could be kept in the future?
Well, I'd still like to come back to some points in the discussion now, because I think what Strauke said about grading and assessment is very essential, because how do we grade now electronically? It's easier said than done. We have software like Teacher's Desktop, which includes marking, grading, and lesson preparation and everything. But I think what is important that the marks are plausible to the students, that they know exactly what they are marked and graded and assessed for, because it doesn't work with the normal sort of grading system. But I think that needs practice, training, experience. And I'd like to draw your attention to a point that resembled a little bit the crisis we are facing now with grading, assessments, qualifications, academic titles, and degrees, and so on. In my Rotary Club, we have older members of society who lived in the time between the World War II in 1945, and they went to university then. And they told me they hardly had any lectures. They didn't actually go to university. And in the end, they got their qualifications and their academic titles as a favor for being there. So in the end, they also became esteemed and valuable members of society. They were actually columns of the labor market. And I think our young students must know this as well. I mean, they don't lose too much. Of course, they have to face a gap, but they will develop other professional and personal skills. And the grades and the marks that we use for them must be adapted to that. And I think what the question from Jasna Polanovic refers to is do we have to take into consideration that we have students who prefer learning at home and studying at home because it's quiet, it's peaceful, they can follow their own pace, their own speed, their own time? Yes, definitely, because they are reliable sources of feedback for us. And the learning organization is an individual matter. How they manage their learning can also be up to the students. And this is what we have to bear in mind in this connection, I think.
Thank you. Mirjana Smičić-Slovenec, please.
Thank you. The key lesson we learned from this experience is undoubtedly that live face-to-face teaching has no alternative in the long run. In the short term, yes, as necessary. Future similar circumstances require more truly adjustment of the entire system, but this needs to be done across the entire educational system very quickly. Nothing is impossible. The world can turn around in a second and become something we see in science fictional movies, and we will still find ways to adapt and improve. And first of all, we have to follow the trends and continuously equip the school with modern equipment, introduce new technologies, so that such situation do not find as unprepared. And on the other hand, I think that it's necessary to continuously invest in interpersonal relationship and create a team that is able to respond more quickly and to effectively and unpredictable situation in such challenges moment. Teachers need to be systematically educated for new teaching methods and technically strengthened. Thank you.
Thank you. Maria Pischelbauer, please. Unmute your microphone, please. Yeah.
So not to double what you've said, as just to add maybe one point is green administration. So not having so many business trips. Of course, we want to meet again, but it's not that bad to have to be together in this way and have the possibility to invite and to talk to so interesting persons as you are here. So this is a pleasure, and it's also what we have learned during this crisis and what I would like to stay. Of course, improving situation of home office. We could work there, and then I would really then go for this autonomy for schools, what you said, Straka. So work on that, as this shared leadership. I don't know, I think it was Mirjana, shared leadership from on every level of our system, down to the students, or up to the students, however you would like to say it. So take that everybody is taking it's his responsibility for what is happening. So this is something I would really love that it stays, except of the respect for the teachers and the teaching and school has been really increasing in the last time.
Okay. So we've had a lot about tools and internet connection. Do you think as well formats have changed or will change even more, like, you know, more blended learning, more inverted, reverse classroom models? Yeah. Do headmasters see improvement to new teaching methods? I think I'll start with the headmaster, Ms. Gudjan.
Thank you. Yeah, very good questions. First of all, I have to tell you that we, as school principals, we do a lot of teaching observation. Teaching observation like study visits when we are in a school, but this kind of method of our work we have to also implement in online teaching and learning and our work. So I can say to you that we are very glad that we were part of online teaching as headmasters during this teaching observation. And yes, definitely, I can conclude our teachers now and 1 year before, that's definitely not comparable. They're digitally mature, but what I am very happy that what was actually very good, that even before you had some teachers that they are very good and familiar with different digital tools, and they were working on it. And they're mostly mentors or some other teaching stuff that they are improving themselves, and even they're getting better pace. But these pandemic situations influence on everybody. So I am happy that some teachers that who didn't love digital work, or they were not informed about digital tools, nowadays they are all in some similar level. You know, we don't have any gap between somebody who knows how to work with digital tools and somebody who is excellent. This is very good in our school. We get one standard, digital standard, and this standard is actually guarantee for our good pedagogical and teaching work. This is my conclusion in this part. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Pichelbauer.
Ralph, I would really love to work together on this quality standards for digital, for remote schooling, digital work, digital teaching. So this could be a very good idea for us to go on, I think. And yeah, I have seen a lot of improvement from a teacher's part, and I've seen also that I have improved a lot. Me personally, I'm not better than other people. 1 year ago, I had cold sweat when it went to come to sharing my screen. So now I'm hosting the big conferences with a lot of people. So I think we all improved a lot, and all the tools we are using, it's just amazing.
Yeah, they definitely. If I can just say one thing, teachers ask me as a school head, please, can we one day, when this pandemic is over, still maintain and keep going with online teaching sessions, teaching meetings? I said, of course, we will combine methods, sometimes in live and sometimes with the help of internet. And I just want to say one thing, because Mr. Axel was saying about this gradings. You know what kind of questions did I have about these gradings from teachers and students and parents? Are the grade who is become during the online process and online teaching the same value as the grading directly become from school in live? I said, of course, the grade is great. Note is note. So, of course, this evaluation question is a good question to deal with our colleagues. We have to evaluate the same things, the gradings in schools and in the internet. Thank you.
Zagorje.
Stark, I agree, because I think when it comes to grading, we have to bear in mind there are certificates that actually express qualifications to go on to the labor market and so on. So, and there are also legal provisions and regulations which determine exactly what the marks have to look like and how the grading and assessment has to take place. And I think the message you passed on is perfectly all right. With an eye on learner styles and digital learning, I think, you know, as teachers, we know that we used to have visual types of learners in earlier days. We had auditive type, we had mixed types, we had kinesthetic types. Now I think we have to accept that we also have digital types who actually learn better digitally than actually listening to a teacher or also looking at the board or whatever. I think what is important here is that we find the right mix. And that is why I believe that the schools of the future, and Mariana has said, we need the physical contact and of course the communication with the teachers and the social element and that the person of reference and also the exchange. But the schools of the future will be hybrid schools because a return from digital to analog will simply not be possible. Also because I think it's a matter of equality of opportunity in education and training, of course, provided that the technical infrastructure is guaranteed in terms of networks and end devices for those who do not have the financial means themselves. And I think without the crisis, the laptops, tablets, and convertibles and the other end devices would never have been given so freely to all the needing students so quickly and willingly. So what can change? Well, certainly distance learning can be integrated better. And for example, in the technical colleges, we have a theory subject with 3 lessons. And you can take the one lesson as an input lesson for a large group of students, let's say 2 or 3 classes together. And the money or the teacher resource you save during this first input lesson, you can use for smaller groups in the practical parts of the subject. And we had a study by Vienna University that said that during the first lockdown, students stayed something like 5 hours per day in front of the PC with the learning materials and so on. In the meantime, this has increased to 7 hours. And out of the student population that was asked, about 30% said they did not have any support by the family at home. And in the lower classes, those who actually said that they had support within the family, about 71% of them said it was by their mothers. So you see that the teacher as a person is essential. It cannot be sort of neglected. It cannot be neglected. We need them. But again, the mix is important, I think. I don't know whether notebooks like the ones with pencil and paper will become obsolete in the future because the convertibles and the tablets have made that unnecessary and teaching materials will be digitalized. So I think there will be a swap towards that sort of development. Also pre-service and in-service teacher training will be organized online more in the future, and I think, but of course the first prerequisite, and many of you have said that, is that the technical infrastructure, hard and software, must be improved at school and in the families.
Fine. Ms. Micic, Slovenec.
Yes, in various tests, polls, and the other tests in schools conducted by schools, all teachers in Croatia improved their knowledge and skills in the development and use of ICT technologies, became members of numerous subject working groups, participate in the development of teaching materials produced for the whole country, archived numerous professional advertisements, organized numerous lectures and examples of good practice were maintained and shared at all levels in the new school years, and information and communication technology cannot replace a teacher, but in times such as these, it's very useful and save the day. Students as well as teachers have made great progress in the use of digital technologies, which can always be an alternative in the case of situation as the one we have now, and the level of digital maturity and digital literacy has increased. It is implied that learning at distance set a new paradigm of learning and teaching, and not only in extreme conditions such as pandemic conditions, but rather that it will become a new standard model for future educations. The sustainability of this approach will be visible in combining and balancing traditional and online classes, especially in the education of adults and during the absence of teachers and similar cases. We must realize that the most important factor in the upbringing and education of people are teachers, professional associations, and principals, and the only goal are the students, of course. Therefore, a constant, meaningful, professional and purposeful perfection, improvement and consistent evaluation of the work of schools at all levels is extremely important, and when things get through it, not time for discouragement and giving up, but to get stick to this harder. This is true for everyone, and especially in the future for students. Thank you.
So thank you so much. Yeah, we are already coming a bit to the end of today's event, and I would kindly ask our audience to enter the floor with questions and remarks via the chat, or even you can raise hands. And I would really love your intervention.
Okay, can I start maybe to break the ice?
Go ahead.
Yes, I'm Bojana Cipot and I'm from Slovenia. I checked the participants and there are so many Slovenians here. Actually, I'm not coming from the school system, but as a parent. So maybe I will contribute with this side of the story. As you know, also in Slovenia, schools were closed for some time. I'm speaking about months. And everything, of course, went virtual. And this is a big experience for all of us. So first of all, schools had to organize themselves. And what we saw at the beginning, they actually opened a special application platform for the communication among parents, children, and schools. So the fluent information flow was crucial here. Daily work was crucial. Not only, knowledge flow, but also social flow, exchange of feelings, exchange of, bad situations. So what to do in case of something like that. Then what I saw also among parents, it's the gap that was really deepened in equipment, because also we found out that some of the students did not have computers at home. And then the gap in digital knowledge of children and of course parents especially. So this was at the beginning, of course. Later, we also saw, I have 2 children, and there was a difference also in a knowledge transfer, because some of the teachers were really creative, really, making their own movies, videos, presentations. They did great job, all of them. But some of them a little bit less, but I know, we understand, you do whatever you can do to transfer your knowledge. And afterwards, a lot of work were on the hands, as I heard already from you as well, on mothers. Because usually mothers are at home. We also work, daily work was not 8 hours anymore, also due to digitalization, because this means that your computer is open 24 hours. So you have to work 24 hours. If you don't have very clear mind to say, now it's enough. So at the same time, there was a schooling at home and, children coming all the time, interrupting and asking questions, of course. But what was the problem? Because children, they recognize you as parent, not as a teacher. So we are not learned to be teachers, first of all. And my reaction was like a reaction of mother, not as a teacher. So, listening was a little bit, it was different actually. So from my job point of view, I work at a technology park and we have a lot of communication also with schools because we have after school activities. We learn children, pupils about entrepreneurship. So we went also very digital. So we prepared a lot of digital videos to support them in knowledge, but we also had physical contacts like mentorship. So they could contact us at any time they wanted to raise questions. And we also kept our competition, which is every year national competition. And we noticed that we have even more business ideas than before. But as I heard also from your side, motivation. Motivation was on a daily basis. It was almost like pushing them, but really, motivating them from, it's different motivation, making it digital or physical. Because we taught them that, they're social creatures. They're used to exchange knowledge, exchange ideas physically, and now it's completely different. Children were scared, little children were scared of the monitors of communication.
May I ask you,
So,
would you like to ask a specific question?
No, this was only to exchange of my experience. So this is just to confirming and congratulating you, all of you, that actually teachers, you did a great job. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Who else would like to contribute?
David, perhaps I can reply to Bojana, just make a short sort of comment. Well, thank you very much for that parent feedback, because I think what is very important here is, you said, feelings had to be conveyed, information and communication had to be carried out, and empathy and creativity played a great role. I think what also happened here was that the respect and the appreciation of teachers and parents alike has grown, namely the appreciation and respect for each other's work. Actually, I think there was a high mutual professional acceptance. Parents suddenly saw the status of teachers differently, and teachers, of course, respected the parents always. And that has now been, I think, somehow stressed and strengthened. Now, of course, you have at the end of the scale all kinds of different teaching types. I think in Austria we have 6,000 schools with 1.1 million students, and in my region alone I have 166 schools with 28,000 students. So you get all kinds of varied experiences, and you have motivation on the one hand, and you also quoted that before, but you have fear and being scared and depression on the other hand. And this does not only refer to children or parents. Teachers get also depressed. Teachers are scared of the COVID-19 pandemic. And I think within that sort of conglomerate, we need to take into account that we have to encourage each other, and that's what is important. And I agree with everything you said, but we have a very varied community, and we have a lot of numbers here as well. And this is why I think you get the different reactions.
Mm-hmm.
And I think even in times before Corona, we had the different types of teachers. So it's not that, that's not really new, I think.
Mm.
And there is different types of teachers that fit to different types of students.
Good. Any further remarks from panelists or the audience are welcome. Yeah, don't be shy. We've got some time left. Oh, you're muted. I don't know if you want to speak, Ms. Julian.
Thank you. Yes. Is this a conclusion? Can I give a conclusion? Or still not?
Yeah, I have a concluding question, but you can try to formulate yours. Please go ahead.
Okay, then I will wait my turn for a conclusion. But I will also say thank you for our lady that was saying a conclusion from parents. It's very important that we hear the voice of parents. And what is also important for me and my colleagues, principals, that we have support from them. Of course, we understand parents and we are understanding school learning and this school environment at home. But yes, we don't know how to deal with, because as you said before, before it was 5 hours, now it's 7 hours that students have to spend at home looking and being with computers. And here also parents who have to maybe work at home, but okay, we have to have support and understanding for each other. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we've heard about many aspects and challenges and problems. Interesting, very interesting. But even we have had a lot of positive aspects as well for the field of education in the context of digitization. And now my final questions for panelists. What would be your wish list to the political level for the future in this context? Maybe you could express 3 wishes for the political level. Who would like to start?
I could start.
Great.
So for me, it's first of all communication. It's giving staying in close contact with all the players in all the people working in education, going on with really sharing information and what they have come up with us. So communication is would be the first. The second is just revise what has been done in digitalization, include what has been learned, the lesson learned, just make it up and then accelerate so that we come quicker to the best results for our students. And the third one is trust, mutual trust, confidence, and giving autonomy to those who are the first actors, the first responders in the system, the teachers and the headmasters.
Thank you. Ms. Smičić, Slovenec. What are your wishes?
My wishes ensure conditions for all-day teaching and enable distance learning infrastructures to be equally accessible to all, no matter where they live. Motivate teachers, principals, parents with understanding and praise, and this is all.
Thank you. Mr. Zafoschnik.
Well, if I could express a wish, I'd very much like to continue our exchange and share our views with all of you again over a glass of wine physically. But unfortunately, we can't do this now. And we've got to meet virtually and to conclude our ideas virtually. But I think it's been very fruitful and rewarding. And as we all see, sometimes it takes a catastrophe to atomize people's resistance against reforms. And I think our lives will simply take place more online, and perhaps this will also apply to school projects, school contests and competitions. Maybe our younger people will start to work autonomously and independently. And I wish that we also support the weaker ones as well as the talented and gifted ones in the classroom. And what we can actually see is that the virus has definitely challenged our education systems. It has changed it and even somehow reformed it, but it has not managed to cause the downfall of the teaching and learning communities, and it has not managed to destroy our schools. And I think one crucial result is that all members of the school community have actually moved together more closely and have stated or started to cooperate intensively and reliably. And even we, as a group of about 70 people here, take the time and the effort to think about the future and about how it's going to go on, because otherwise we could just despair and forget everything. But I think we appreciate one another's work and we respect the teaching job, because if you think about attendance days of schools last year, I think our students had not even 80 days or 90 days at school out of 190 days, and still somehow school went on. And I wish that school will never stop, that the education process will be kept afloat, no matter physically or digitally. And not everything we have done was 100% success, but nothing we did was a complete failure. And I think we have tried to keep the negative consequences as low as possible, because all of us are committed to take over responsibility for young people, and we need 21st century skills for them, and we need a lot of empathy. I think that has also been expressed. And if I could wish for something in the future, this is the idea: empathy for students, for each other, and with that we can actually also improve our learning and manage our learning processes better. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Gretchen, please.
Thank you. I agree with all my colleagues, especially Maria. You said one excellent word, communication. Axel, you said respect for work that we do in our schools. And my wish list is very large, but what I want that we maintain our teamwork, especially in our schools, but also in our alliance. So I hope to do some projects together, especially on subjects of online didactics, online leadership, online methodics. We need it. And what I also wish that our alliance give support to our schools, to our teachers, parents, students, and school principals, that we do on our school levels and international levels some school projects, so that we can really improve our teamwork and all these things that we said, communication, respect, empathy. What I want to conclude, that we all in our educational system nowadays, in this pandemic time, we have 4 roles, 4 skills that are very important. First role is that we are good organizers. We have to be in schools, at your workplaces, good organizers. We have to be good communicators. We have to be good motivators. And we have to also be, as this fourth skills, is to be good reformers. The pandemic means for me reform process. We are in reform. Maybe you are not aware, but we are in reform from analog to digital, as Mr. Axel very nicely said. So all these skills we need to have together with school autonomy and also with autonomy on universities or at our ministries. Because we have to have interdisciplinary approach when we are talking about educating and upbringing our students. These are new generations of students. There are also new generations of teachers, and definitely different and new generations of school principals who have to manage and who have to be able to deal with different new circumstances and lead. And they have to know how to manage, they have to know how to lead. I will conclude with one sentence. We have to be very quick in our reactions. We have to know how to make our decisions, and we have to know how to react to be positive for our children, teachers, schools, and of course the whole the whole people. Thank you very much.
Thank you. This is now the end of our first conference. Thank you all for your interesting contributions. Thanks to the audience for your interest. I may announce the next conference. It will be on April 24, and we will discuss about culture and the current crisis. Have a nice day, everybody. Have a nice and hopefully sunny weekend. Okay, goodbye, everybody.
Thank you and bye-bye. All the best.
Bye-bye.